Okay, so lightning round number 2 is going to be Steve Gray presenting Dr. Soundlove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, which is actually a pretty good thing. Okay, let's get Steve wired for sound here. Awesome, fantastic. Yeah. All right, we're gonna have um, actually, I've seen that stack of boxes in his house, so I know exactly where the picture was taken.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, sounds like you're on. Steve Gray, take it away.
Thanks. So this isn't going to be terribly technical. It's just that over the last year or so, I developed a little preamp that turned out to be pretty good, but it was a pretty convoluted path to get to the final thing. And so I'm just going to go over all the things I went through. Yeah, this is just a very small sample of my boxes from JLC PCB, because at one point it's like I had an addiction and I just kept churning out new versions of boards and trying new things. And as you can see, they're marked differently. They work great for storing other stuff. So this all started in 2022. I built an ACA Mini, and I really, really liked it. It's a great design, sounds great, but it's not pet friendly. It's not little kid friendly. It's all exposed. So I decided I wanted to make something a little more better looking and better protected with better wife acceptance factor. So there we go. So I downloaded KiCad. I learned how to use it. I used Eagle years before, which KiCad's so much better. And I transformed the AC Mini into a pair of those. Basically split the board apart, made it into 2 separate mono blocks, and you can mount the transistors on the edge and mount it to a heat sink. And I wound up with this, which it's actually a lot smaller than it looks. It looks like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids version of a real live amplifier. And it sounded great, really good. I really, really liked it. And I learned how to use KiCad at the same time. And I figured, well, this is great, but I needed more. I needed a preamp with a level control, because all I had right now is a power amp, and I'm feeding the audio signal out of my PC, out of the DAC. So I had to alter the volume that way. So I needed a preamp. So I decided, well, what should I make for a preamp? And I had made a Mesmerize before, which is, it was available, probably still is on the DIY audio store. It's basically a pass B1 buffer with a couple of 2 SK170 JFETs for the buffer stage. No gain, really, really good. But I had also learned that Nelson had designed another one called the B1 Rev 2, which was a balanced version, which used those complementary JFETs, the 2 SK170 and the 2 SJ74, matched the ones made out of unobtainium that cost $40 a pair. And I figured, well, that's what I want to do, because it also has a balanced supply, so you could adjust the output through a little pot and go DC coupled and not have any output coupling caps, which I kind of wanted to do. So I decided to establish my objectives, because you have to figure out, well, what do I want to build before you decide to build it? So I figured I want a simple high-performance design based on the B1R2. I want a good quality volume control. I decided to use an Alps Blue Velvet. I needed a clean, regulated supply. I wanted it in a small footprint. So what do you do after phase 1? You make it happen. Phase 2. So I captured the schematic, designed what I wanted, laid out the board, generated my bill of materials. Always generate a bill of materials to make sure you can actually acquire what it is you need. Make sure you know what you're going to build. Make sure you can get all the parts, and then order the boards. So I did that. Here's a useful note on using KiCad. A lot of the symbols and things and parts you need in KiCad, they're already there. It's got a great library, but if it doesn't have what you need, you can create your own, and it's pretty simple to do. So I would recommend that you learn to make your own footprints and your own devices in KiCad. It'll pay off in spades. And you can do it just by copying and renaming existing parts, and then just move things around to get what you need. It works great. So before ordering the boards, visually review the schematic and layout, make sure everything's there that you need. Always use the built-in design rule checker in KiCad, which is fantastic. It will find your stupid mistakes, more often than not, unconnected traces and things, or things that are too close together that violate the rules you've established. You can also use plugins with KiCad, which is also fantastic. And the plugin I use the most is this one here. And you just push a button and it takes all of your design files and generates all the Gerber files and drill files and everything you need to order the board from JLC PCB, and it pops it all in a zip file for you. So it's fantastic. So once you've determined you have what you need, install that thing, push the button, and then go order the boards. It works out great. So that's the schematic, which is pretty simple. Whoop. It's linear regulator with half-wave bridge rectifiers. Those are the unobtainium FETs on the output. That's the potentiometer that I chose. Very, very simple topology. It turned into this board. That's the pot. If you've ever seen a blue velvet pot, that's the size. So it's a pretty compact board with built-in power supply. It worked great. I put it in there to test it. It didn't look so hot, but it worked really well. That's just one input, one output. So the design concept was proven. It sounded great, but it was barely functional. One in, one out. No source selection, no box. The cardboard looked bad, blah, blah, blah. So new objectives. Put it in a nice case, add some source selection, and I decided I wanted some gain, not just a buffer, because I download all my own software. I rip all my own. Excuse me. When I say software, I mean the music as opposed to the hardware, the gear. I download all my own files, or I rip my own CDs or whatever. I put them on my server, and I normalize the volume pretty low, which I don't know if I should or I shouldn't. So I wanted to add some gain so I could have some nice volume and be able to turn the volume up and down. So I came up with this and put it in a box. So this is basically the same board, but I put an op amp on the front end in a socket, so you could do op amp rolling if you wanted and change things out. I settled on using a 4562, which I thought sounded pretty sweet. I thought that was a pretty good sounding, pretty nice clean preamp. And then these things here on these wings, those are resistors that are in the feedback loop, and you can change those out and change the gain that you have in the system. So if you want to use like 6 dB gain or 12 dB gain or 8 dB gain, change those things out. It worked out pretty well. There's your source selection there, and that's the power switch there. It's using a little AC wall wart feeding into the half-wave rectifier. And that worked out really well. I like that a lot. But there's a big problem with that. That was a real pain in the ass to build, because I've got to hand solder that connection and that one, and I got to drill all the holes, and that was just a whole lot more work than I wanted to mess with. I only had 2 inputs. I wanted more, at least a third. Also on that board, I put the coupling caps in the wrong place, the input coupling cap, so I had to change the layout on that anyway. And around that time, I had met Jim, and he had some suggestions for me, some helpful design tips. So I made more changes. So I changed from using just a switch to relays to select. I also wanted to add a delay relay for the output, so they'll pops when you turned it on. I wanted to have a processor be able to control all that stuff, either a 555 or a little processor or something. So I designed it to meet all those needs. So a new rev board, and this is what I came up with to kind of divide and conquer. So I had the board with the gain stage and the pot and everything on there, but I wanted to do all this delay selection and relay selection and stuff like that. So I came up with these boards. This thing, actually, that's an opto isolator that if you feed that, some kind of low voltage, it'll turn on, it'll supply the plus minus 12, the 24 volts, that'll allow you to flip the 24 volt relays, which I use because I was using a plus minus 12 supply. So I decided to use 24-volt relays with that. And then that's either a processor, or you could even populate it something smaller. If you flip it around and put a few jumpers in there, you could put a 555 in there. You could put an 8-pin microchip PIC into it, or a 16 or 15-pin microchip PIC processor. That's a relay board. That's a relay board. That's strictly a delay control board. So I made a bunch of different. I thought I had this off. Sorry, my bad. So that was my daughter. I just hung up on my daughter. Oh no. So yeah. So I came up with all these little boards, but that's the PIC 555 board. Oh, that's my new logo thing too that I came up with. So if you want to use a processor, you need to run 5 volts. So there's a little regulator on there. You can run the PIC processor off, or you can put a 14-pin PIC in it, 8-pin PIC, or a 555 timer. And all that does, one way or the other, is it just wastes time after you apply power to the board, and then it turns the output relay on, so you don't get any pops or anything. So I have that, and that's just the same thing, but just strictly a 555 board. These are the relay boards. This is for 4 sources. This is for 3 relays that I also laid out so you could put one relay in series with the other. So you could have, one selection with one relay, the other relay selects the other relay, 2 selections with that. So 2 relays gives you 3 selections rather than 3 relays for 3 selections. And then the odd relay is you wire up to the delay controller. So that worked out pretty well. The main board came out to this. It was laid out a little better. I changed to jumpers and with fixed resistors instead of having modular things to pull resistors up, because you could have your pick of however many different gain values you wanted to use. Jumper selectable gain. Also, I set it up so you could put, a lot of people like big caps, big film caps. So I put more pads on there for that. Put bigger tank caps in the power supply. Changed from adjustable 317, 337 regulators to 78, 15, 79, 15s fixed regulators, because they work just fine, and there's more than enough capacitance to give more than enough reserve power for that. I added a snubber circuit, courtesy of Mark Johnson's Quasimodo design, which worked out really nice. Put a connector on there for an LED on the front panel. Put some taps on there so I could tap pre and post regulated power if I wanted to use it for something else. So it's starting to become a pretty flexible board. And it turned into this. That's what it looked like when it was in the chassis. So the 2 input one became 3 inputs. 1 input was on the front, and an 1/8-inch aux input, power, and then I did some silk screening on it. It was actually done with a laser, one of those laser etcher things. A friend of mine has one of those, so I used that to make it look reasonably okay. So that worked out pretty well. So all done? No, because this look at how much time. I couldn't believe how many hours I had to take to build that thing, and I really didn't want to do that. I know you guys are into that, but I'm not. I'm lazy. I think I heard somebody else say before, who was it yesterday that said they do everything they have to do, but they do it as easily as possible or something? That was you. Okay, yeah, that was Scott. Scott said that. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. This is much too hard. But so that's the control board for the delay. That's the relay board right there. And then that's the main board right there. But that still wasn't good enough. I still needed to do more. So it looked good. It did what I needed. Everything worked well. The sound quality was excellent. I mean, it really did sound clean. It was really nice. It's a real keeper. No, because I had to drill all those holes. I had to apply the graphics. All kinds of point-to-point wiring. It was a severe PITA, pain in the ass to build. So the next iteration, I figured I'm going to put everything on one board, minimize the point-to-point wiring as much as possible, remove the need to drill holes as much as possible, remove the need for the point-to-point wiring, minimize the physical assembly steps, right? So this is what I came up with. So that's what the front panel looks like. That front panel is a PCB board. And so the nice thing about the PCB board is you order from the board house. They give you the nice black that you want. They give you all the graphics they want. They drill you the holes where you want. I left the pores in place, front and rear. So I've got good, it's like a metal box on the front and rear too. You got copper on both sides filled up. So that worked out pretty well. I like that as much. And courtesy of Jim, decided to call it the B1SO, the B1 Special Ops, because it had so many different options in it, you know, and different things to do. So I came up with this as the board. So this is a single board, and it just slides into the chassis. Don't even have to drill holes to mount the board into the chassis, because the aluminum chassis is extruded on the side with little slots. You just slide the board into the chassis. The holes are already set up in the front and rear. Just put it on, so there's like 1, 2, 3 screws to screw in the back. There's 1 screw to screw in the front. That's it, Schloss, you're done. Just populate the board, slide it in the chassis. Oh, you do have to put 4 screws in each corner to put the front and back panels on. But this is kind of cool. So this is the 555 delay timer for the output relay. This thing it uses 24 volts, which is the plus minus 12. So that comes directly off of this 3-way switch. So 3 positions, select your 3 sources. This is the supply. It's on the same board. There's the snubber right there, front panel power switch. So over here, those are the pots to do the output balance, so you can null out the output. So you have 0 volt DC on the output. There's your input coupling caps again in the right place, and you can put big film ass caps in there if that's what you want to do, but you don't really have to. These little Wimas are really great caps, and they fit nice. This is the gain thing, which that's a surface mount part. I did a little surface mount board to pop in there as well. So you can put any kind of op amp in there you want. That's a standard format. Gain switches, down to 2 gain switches, which gives you 4 combinations. So there's actually only really 3 gain values worth it. This will do 6, 12, 18, and 15.6 because of the way all the resistors come together. So that worked out pretty well. Power supply worked out pretty well. All the power supply takeoff options worked pretty well. I added a line level audio takeoff down there. So if you want to just take your line level out and do something with it, like tape monitor output or something like that, you could do that. So this, again, sounded pretty good and worked pretty well. And I also added these jumper holes. So if you want to build this with just the op amp gain supply, with just the op amp gain stage, you can do that and just use these jumpers to bypass the output buffer stage. Or if you want to build it with just the buffer stage, use the jumper holes to bypass the gain stage, or you could build it with both. So it's your option. You could build basically a kind of a fancy B1R2, or you could build a B1R2 with gain, or you could save a lot of money and just use the op amp gain stage. Both of which sound pretty good. All 3 iterations actually sound pretty clean. And this is a CRC type filter scheme on the power supply. So is it done now? Yeah, it's done now. Yeah. It looks good, it works great, it sounds great. The feature set is flexible, it's easy to build, super easy to build. It's currently the heart of my own main system, and it might even become a kit one of these days. And I've built a little family of these things too. So I've got a phono pre in the works, a headphone amp in the work, and they all build the same way. They all slide into the same chassis. They all have the power supply built in. It's pretty slick stuff. So yeah, that's it. Just a little story of my journey from getting from point A to point B.
That's absolutely fantastic. Does anybody have any questions for Steve?
Thanks.
So one of the things that I will mention is that, is this on? Okay, yeah. is that yes, this probably will become a kit sooner rather than later. There was a whole bunch of real life stuff that was going in the way. Look for a pre-order at some point. I can vouch for this thing. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. And if for no other reason that it is an absolutely outstanding platform for op amp rolling, if you're into something like that. It's got good switching. It doesn't have any turn on, turn off thumps. It's just slick. And yeah, it's cool. It's really, really cool. Questions for Steve? Okay, hang on.
It's more a comment, but it sounds like you saved time for all of us, but you did it 3 times to get it perfect.
Yeah, it should be okay at this point because I made you didn't even see all the versions I made. It was a true obsession for well over a year. I rolled a lot of different versions of this until I got to the point where it's like, yeah, this is nice. I could stick with this. Yeah.
So did you use the 3D export to generate from KiCad?
Yes.
To
Yes.
generate your enclosure?
Yeah. The question was, did I use the 3D export to generate those graphics that you saw on the boards from KiCad? And I did. It's got a really nice option that lets you export JPEGs of the board layouts that you make with the parts on them if the parts are in the library, if the part images are in the library that you're using. Yeah.
Did you design the enclosure? The box?
No, the box I bought, it's a box that I found a vendor in China that had them. So the only thing I had to do was lay out the front and back panels,
Yeah, you can find those boxes.
which I did in KiCad. Yeah.
Whole idea using PCBs for the front and back panel.
I got that from him.
And I copied it from somebody else. So definitely not an original idea.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Probably came from Mark. There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Steve, quick question.
Yeah.
DC input or AC?
Oh, AC. It's an AC input. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
AC wall wart. So it's all UL rated. You don't have to mess with any of that kind of stuff.
okay, so I got to be up here and say that we're running out of time. So
Okay,
go
I'm
ahead
outta
and
here.
Go ahead and swap microphones with Mark. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Give Steve a round of applause. That was cool.